We've all heard the call, let's take America back. Some would have us make political salvation our prime religious objective. It may be that some of us, as runners in life's race, have found a serious detour. There's danger around the bend if we don't get back on the main road. Today, avoiding the temptation to put the cross and the flag on the same level. Stay with us. From Chicago's Moody Church, this is Running to Win with Dr. Erwin Lutzer, whose clear teaching helps us make it across the finish line. In his series, Why the Cross Can Do What Politics Can't, Dr. Lutzer is making a clear distinction between the cross and the flag. Today, he bursts what for many is a big bubble.
Is America a Christian country? No, America never was a Christian country, never will be a Christian country. There are only countries that are influenced by Christianity, and certainly America was, in varying degrees. But if you study its history, and you know that even evangelicals discuss this and disagree on it, it was never specifically Christian. Religious, yes, not necessarily specifically Christian, though of course Christians were involved in government. What I'd like to do for the next few moments is delineate for you now the cross and the flag, three different relationships that can exist between these two emblems. First of all, we can think of the flag above the cross. The flag above the cross. And that, of course, happens whenever you get people who are so committed to their country that they forget about their commitment to God. My country, right or wrong. And so there is this blindness to the cross because they are so committed to whatever their country does. I need to tell you that throughout history, Christians have always been tempted to render unto Caesar that which belongs only to God. You've heard the story of my presence in that Berlin museum, and I saw pictures of the cross of Christ in the middle of a swastika. You have all these swastikas with the cross embedded in it. And that's how come I decided to write the book Hitler's Cross. I stood there and I said, how could this happen? How nationalistic did the German church get? And we can see it clearly in Germany, but I need to say very kindly that sometimes we're blind to it in our own lives because we say, well, they were, of course, living under an evil, wicked dictator, and that's different. Yes, it's different, but the temptation is always there, even in America. In order to help you to understand what it is that I mean, I want to give you some illustrations. This is why we tend to lump together a number of different things. For example, we'll take the issue of abortion, which is really a biblical issue to be sure, because it has to do with human life and the destruction of unborn human life. But we tend to lump it together so that suddenly it becomes part of a larger agenda. It becomes part of a balanced budget amendment. We say that that's a part of our agenda. And the whole idea of support for the National Rifle Association and term limits for congressmen, and on the list goes. And we say all of this is a part of the Christian agenda. Is it? You know, it's this kind of confusion that led Jerry Falwell in 1985, I believe it was, the middle 80s, to go to South Africa and take the side of apartheid in South Africa. How did that get into this Christian agenda? The reason that I feel so deeply about this is because during that period of time, I was in Toronto and I caught a cab, and like I always do, I tried to witness to the cab driver, and he kept throwing this into my face, and I kept saying, I know that that's not Christian, let's forget about what happened there, and he kept coming and he's saying, but he's a Christian minister, and on, and I could not witness to him about Christ. This was a thorn that lodged in his throat. How was that Christian? And that's what happens. Let me tell you another thing that sometimes happens, folks, and we're just talking here among ourselves, aren't we? You're still with me on the hike? You think I've bypassed some minds, or have I just barely missed one? Stick with me. Tendency to confuse our values. We, as those of us who live in America, we love the American way of life. Frankly, it's a great way to live. Just look at Christmas. Look at Christmas. I don't know how it is in your house, but In my house at Christmas time, our living room looks as if there was an explosion in a department store. That's the way it looks. And we love it. That's the American way of life. But I need to ask you something today. Is that really the same as the Christian way of life? Is that distinctively Christian? 3 years ago, next month, I was in Belarus, where I met with those pastors, the story that I told you about, 300 of them. I said to Victor Kruko, as we were riding together in the car, I said, what do the people buy here for Christmas? Where do they go Christmas shopping? And have you ever asked somebody a question and he looks at you as if to say, how could you be so stupid as to have asked that? It's one of those, ay, 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 you'll never learn, will ya, kind of responses. He said, there is no Christmas shopping. There is nothing in the stores. There are no gifts. Nothing. We may sing a few hymns, but that's it. Is that non-Christian? Are we more Christian than our beloved brothers and sisters in Belarus? You see how easy it is to get all these kingdoms confused. There are some people to whom the national debt, high taxes, strong national defense, rollbacking of government regulations means as much to them, and they are as committed to that as they are to the evangelism of their neighbors who are going to die without knowing Jesus Christ as Savior. It's easy to confuse the values of the two kingdoms. It's easy. I'm convinced that there are many angry Christians today who would get over their anger and they'd be very pacifistic and easy to live with if all that we could do is to crank the clock back to the good old 1950s. Some of you remember those good old 1950s when we didn't have drugs and we didn't have this. Now, and they'd be happy even if in the process of cranking back the clock, nobody was saved. It's just that we got back to the good old times when we didn't have these. Some people would be content if America accepted Jesus as this teacher of America, even if they didn't accept him as the Savior. They'd be glad, just give me those good old times again. Many people are not concerned about the fact